welcome to Monet Cafe. I'm artist Susan Jenkins here with another lesson of just artistic exploration, learning, and fun. It's morning here where I am in the Florida area, and it's my favorite time to paint. I usually get my coffee and I just start to enjoy the process of art. I recently got back from a cruise where I got to complete a few paintings on a cruise ship. That was really amazing. And I did this little painting here, which was actually something I'm going to implement some of the methods I used during this painting in this one here today. But I wanted you to take note of, I'm going to talk a little bit about value in this lesson today. Notice that the things in the background are a little punched up with color, and a little enhanced with color. Well, really everywhere. And the point of this is you can use colors that aren't necessarily realistic to the photo or the experience, you know, the landscape you happen to be looking at. And if you use correct value, you can explore with color. You don't want to get your value wrong. So you can use a color that is not what you see as long as it's the right value. In the reference photo that I used for this, those background fields were not that teal in color, not that bold, and there was not that many purples in the background. But I decided to create a mood that I started with the sky, a little bit of a lavender sky, and I kept the values that worked with that sky. So that's kind of what I'm talking about here. Value is the lightness or the darkness of a particular color. And again, if you get your value right, it doesn't matter if the color is exactly right. So it's a very, very foundational artistic principle that we need to learn with this. So today what I'm going to do is work with a little reference photo I have here. I'll put it up on the screen. And there is also nothing wrong with getting inspiration from other artists. A couple of other artists that I really like. One is Jane Hunt. Her work is just lovely. If you've been on my channel a little bit, you can tell I like the impressionistic style and looseness. I like the freedom of being able to paint not exactly what is in the scene, but to explore. Now, doing those things does require you to get some of these foundational principles correct so that you can color outside the lines, so to speak, with some creative explorations. Another artist that I love is Karen Margulis. I've been admiring her work for years. Her use of color and value and mood and that impressionistic style is one that I absolutely love. So that is kind of a little bit of the lesson for today. And what I'm working on today is just a piece of 400 grit UArt paper. Okay, it's sanded pastel paper. The surface is sanded like a piece of sandpaper. It's because I'm going to do this particular painting today in pastel. However, and that's the best surface for pastel paintings. However, I'm going to do what's called an underpainting. That's another lesson for today. What is an underpainting and why do artists use them? An underpainting is basically a way to quickly get down the values or the mood and the big shapes of the painting. Sometimes it's just a one color you want to be the mood of the painting. Sometimes I'll just paint it the whole underpainting a beautiful amber color. But for this one, a lot of times I will do an underpainting of watercolor. And the great thing about UArt paper is you can do watercolor on this. It'll dry and you can just do your pastel right over top of it. So I'm going to do an underpainting now that is going to be basic values and shapes to kind of get that mood. And it also lays down beneath the painting a little bit of an impressionistic beginning to the art. So that's what I just did on a recent painting of mine, and it really set the mood and set the stage for the painting. All right, so here we go with a watercolor underpainting. Okay, So you can see now how quickly you can get the underpainting as a base for the rest of your painting. Notice, well, I did the time lapse for this, but I actually did work incredibly quickly for this. Once again, like, as you learn the principles of art and color and value, you can start to work more quickly and enhance that looseness in a work of art. So what I've done here is, again, I wanted to create that mood of kind of like a lavender sky. I've already determined, even though my original reference photo did not have the light where I'm going to put it, I used my artistic flexibility to be able to put it where I want, because I love this water here, and the reflection, the focal point will be this water in the sky here. I'm going to make the light or the sunlight or whatever it is coming from more of this area in here. Okay, so I am going to keep this as the focal point. And notice the values that I'm using here. They all are kind of harmonious, and the color palette is very harmonious here. So what it does is it creates a mood for me, and it also keeps me from getting too fussy in any one area when I put down a whole lot of color like this. It's kind of like, okay, I'm ready to go. So work a little bit more with underpaintings, even if you just experiment with some small pieces. Watercolor is a great way to lay down a quick and easy underpainting, as long as you're working on a surface that will receive the water and not mess up the painting surface that you're using. Okay, so now it's probably already dry. It doesn't take long for this to dry, and then I can begin to apply the pastel. So it's so exciting. I love this. Here we go. So what I've done here is I've selected a little selection of pastels. Actually, this is kind of a big selection for this little painting, but I guess you could say I'm lazy. I didn't want to have to get back up again. But again, I'm working kind of with this mood that I'm trying to create. Now, if I took a picture of this and converted it to black and white, I'd be able to quickly see what colors are darker and lighter in value. Again, value is the darkness or the lightness of a color, or where it falls on that scale. Again, like anything else, you get better at this the more you do it. I can squint my eyes, or you can, and you can kind of see. I have them kind of in color families right now. That just helps me. But if you squint your eyes, you can see a little bit more easily which colors are darker in value and which ones are lighter in value. You can also do this by just having them in low light. You know, dim your lights if you can. But again, this will all start to come naturally. So we want to keep our values correct. Again, values in the distance will lighten. They're not as dark as far away. So if these were the same particular types of trees as these trees in the background, these are naturally going to be lower in value because they're further away. A few things happen as distance increases. Detail decreases, value decreases, and color fades. So things aren't as vibrant in the background, they're not as dark, and they're not as detailed. That's just a quick and easy way to get some depth to your painting. Those three things, if you can just remember those. So that's why I've just chosen some color families with different values so I can work in creating that three-dimensional feel to this. So, and these are Terry Ludwig's mostly. I have the square ones are Terry Ludwig's. The round ones are Unisons, I believe, and I have a few other various maybe harder pastels in here as well. But I do like the really soft ones. So if you decide to do pastels, start with something basic, and then as you find, if you like it, you can start to increase your colors and things. Pastels require a lot more colors than oil and acrylic. So anyway, here we go. Ready for the fun? Let's do it. Okay, so I wanted to stop here just to explain a couple of things. I've got the basics of my pastel laid down, and I worked very loosely with blocking in just kind of big shapes and ideas. And I noticed I have something going on here that's compositionally not the best thing, which is I have all these trees. They almost look like they're lined up, so I'm going to change that up a little bit. I also might make this tree reaching out a little bit more here. I mean, to me, when I do a painting, I think of it almost like a piece of music. You want it to be harmonious and lead the eye around and just have some interest to it. These back trees, you may have noticed too that I laid down, even though things in the distance are lower in value, they're not as dark, and they tend to blue out in the background. Things that are further away tend more towards blue and purple than reds and yellows and oranges. But you may have noticed that before I got this lighter color on here, I laid down a darker, almost like this purpley dark color, and then I put the blues on top of that. And the reason is because it's better in pastels and oil and acrylics to work dark to light. So that created that background for whatever those darker shadowy areas are peeking through. So it's better to lay down the darks and layer on top with lights. All these things, it sounds like a lot at first, but the more you just keep having fun and playing around and watching other artists, the easier it gets. So I just want to encourage you to experiment and have fun. Okay, I'm going to get to work on this a little bit more, and as always, I just ask the Lord for His help and for Him just to allow me to enjoy this process. All right, here we go again. Okay, at this point I'm analyzing a little more, and now it's time to be more precise with where I place things. I like at the beginning how you can be all loose and free as long as you're following the general composition and values in the painting. But now I'm going to kind of analyze what I want to do here. I love things peeking through and you accomplish that with, again, you put down all your big shapes. Notice before this was mostly just a whole bunch of dark, and I've started to add in little bits of this distant tree line peeking through. Those, well, in the sky they're called sky holes, where you basically just go in and add in some little places where the sky is peeking through. That probably should be more of that purple color in there. And they're pretty random, but not totally random. I mean, you want it to make sense, but at the same time, not be too perfect. And you also want to kind of vary your strokes. In other words, you don't want all your sky holes to be going in the same direction. You don't want them all to be the same size. And it just adds that interest in the painting. So, so that's kind of what I'm playing around with right now. Probably need that more purple than that orangey color back there. And again, it's like you're carving out the tree. Instead of painting the positive of the tree, okay, the positive shape, once you lay in the dark value of the tree, you're actually carving in the negative shape of the tree. Okay, so you're working around the tree to make the leaves and the foliage and the things. Again, things in the distance, they are not all that perfect. Okay, so we don't have to draw every leaf and everything like that. So it's better to keep it loose and a bit more undefined, because that's how our eyes see. For example, we tend in real life, if this was outside in real life, we may look at this part of the water and our eyes would focus on this area. However, while we're looking at this, our peripheral vision, the rest of our vision, things appear blurry. So we try to emulate that in our painting. And that's the unfortunate thing sometimes about working with a photograph, is a photograph, most photography anyway, will have a focus on everything. So in other words, you'll be able to, you know, kind of look and see the leaves and the distant trees. And we don't want to do that. We want to keep things loose and free in other areas, and maybe just have a few areas of more detail where you want your point of interest of your painting to be. Another thing I kind of like, that I think I just kind of naturally do this sometimes now, is with the composition, we've talked before about an S curve, and to have the eye flowing around. I've got a little bit of that going in here with this coming in and going out. Also, again, I've kept my horizon line not in the middle. This would be the middle. It's here a little bit more in that top third, slightly, a little higher back here. So I'm liking how this is going, but at this point I'm going to start being more precise and a little more careful. I got a lot of these leaves going straight up and down, and I want to break that up a little bit with maybe some more horizontal and very loose strokes. Okay, so here we go. Say a prayer for me. Right, I wanted to take a moment to talk about reflections, because anytime you have water in a painting, you're going to have the ability to create reflections, which really enhances the believability of the painting. And notice in the sky, whenever you have a sky and water, the water is going to reflect the sky. And there's a lot of great lessons you can find on correct reflections, but basically a reflection is just what it says. It's just like a mirror image. So if you notice how I have the sky, the lighter values in the sky are kind of here and going this way, I have that reflected in the water as well. You want to make it believable and consistent. Now with grasses, you also have reflections that work there as well, or anything growing up. These trees actually in the distance would actually have some reflections down here, like a mirror image of how these are going. You get better the more you do these. This is kind of going up and that way. Okay, so here it would go, I need it a little, it's right below it. It would be reflected in here. And you want to get them, you don't want to be too awfully fussy about it, but you just want to get it general, okay? So so you can work on that. And I will later do a little technique to where I can make it, right now it looks like it's cutting across the water. We can smooth it out with a technique to make the water look glassy on top of it. Okay, so that was just a little quick note on reflections. And typically, let me see if I can do this real quick with my right hand. My camera's in the way. With these grasses, you can just take, this is a little dark, I'm trying to be soft-handed here, and pull down some of the value down like this underneath the grasses. This is a little heavy-handed. I want to make it actually a little softer. And then when you get your reflections done, you can take another color that is in the water and you can just smooth over it a little bit, and it gives kind of that neat idea. Now I am at this point that requires me to analyze this and not overwork it. I have had a tendency in the past to wish I had stopped, a while before I actually did, and that's what I'm trying to be careful of right now, not to just get so into it that I get it too much and too dark. I like to get better. One of my goals is to get better at what I call, I don't know if this is the correct term, but I call it efficiency of stroke, meaning that your strokes are very purposeful. You don't have to go back and correct a lot because you put them in the right place the first time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work on just finishing this up, getting rid of some of the darks here and softening a couple of areas. I may actually spray some workable fixative. It's a spray you can spray on pastel paintings to actually give it a little bit more tooth or grit. As I showed in the beginning, this is pastel paper and it's kind of like sandpaper. And when I spray that fixative on it, it gives it another little layer of surface for me to apply. So I'm gonna work on this a little bit more and then I'm gonna call it quits and have me another cup of coffee.